possibly can. So, Senator Wolk, welcome, and please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the subcommittee, and member of the subcommittee. SB 237 defines the eligible uses of funds designated for the California's agricultural sector from implementing the market mechanism portion of AB 32. The bill specifies that the funds could be used for research and demonstration projects, technical assistance, and financial incentives for agricultural practices that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support climate change adaptation. It is certainly clear that climate change will have a major impact on agriculture as well as other aspects of the state of California. But SB 237 will recognize the critical and what I believe is the positive role that agriculture can play to ensure that funds that are allocated to this sector are effectively used to reduce overall emissions and help farmers as well to adapt to a changing climate. The bill specifies that the projects funded must provide environmental co-benefits. This could include improved air quality or water quality, water efficiency, energy efficiency, improved habitat, and much more. Additionally, the bill establishes an advisory committee made up of conventional and organic producers, researchers, processors, agency reps, and other stakeholders to help make certain that the funds will be put to the best use. With me today, I have been silent, as you know, as to the location of the advisory committee. The previous iteration of the bill put the advisory committee in CDFA, but we are remaining agnostic on that until we work through the process with the stakeholders and in consultations with the new Agriculture Secretary. I have with me Jeannie Merrill from the California Climate and Ag Network and Claudia Reed with the California Certified Organic Farmers. Yes, hello. To testify in support. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Wolk. Witnesses in support.
My name is Jeannie Merrill. I'm the Policy Director with the California Climate and Agriculture Network, a coalition of the state's leading sustainable agriculture and farmer member organizations. I urge your support for SB 237 because it recognizes the significant climate benefits that California agriculture can offer. SB 237 outlines eligible funding activities for California agriculture once the legislature appropriates the funds. Just last week, the United Nations warned that climate change disruptions may fuel rising food prices and global food insecurity. California agriculture is our country's leading provider of fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and dairy products, and we have much to lose if California agriculture is not prepared to address climate change sustainably. Yet, as a state, we lack critical attention to what climate change could mean for our ability to produce food. We recently completed a review of the status of resources available for agriculture to address climate change and found that since 2007, only 39 publicly funded research projects have focused on ways that California agriculture can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate. In a state with 400 different commodities and a range of regional climates and soils, significantly more research on the climate benefits of sustainable farming methods is needed. We found that technical assistance staff that the state's farmers and ranchers once relied upon is also in decline. The state peaked in terms of its numbers of on-farm UC cooperative extension advisors in 1969. Today, we have a little over 300 cooperative extension advisors and specialists compared to 900 cooperative extension specialists in Texas. And the demand among California farmers and ranchers for USDA Farm Bill conservation programs that reward good conservation measures, many of which offer climate benefits, far exceeds current funding levels. SB 237 is crucial in recognizing that California agriculture can be part of the state's climate solutions, and I urge your yes vote.
Thank you very much. And before we go to the next witness, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll so we can establish a quorum.
Senator Simitian.
Here.
Strickland.
Here.
Blakesley. Hancock.
Here.
Kehoe. Lowenthal.
Here.
Pavley.
Quorum has been established. Next witness, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Claudia Reed. I'm the Policy Director for California Certified Organic Farmers. We certify in 35 states. Here in California, we certify about 1,900 members. Most of those are small farmers. As Senator Welk indicated, agriculture does have a lot to lose when it comes to climate change effects. We're very dependent on the weather and the availability of natural resources, so we are uniquely vulnerable here in California to those climate change impacts. The state is inadequately prepared to support California agriculture in addressing climate change impacts. Passage of SB 237 will provide an important first step to assure that California's farmers and ranchers can both adapt to the changing climate and to provide climate benefits. California is home to some of the country's most innovative and conservation-minded farmers. We lead the country in organic production with nearly 3,000 certified organic farms, and we at CCOF currently certify 500,000 acres just here in California. Organic farming offers some of the best opportunities for agriculture to provide climate benefits, including building healthy soils that sequester atmospheric carbon, reduce fossil fuel inputs, and lower our carbon footprint, increase energy efficiency, and produce renewable energy and conserve water resources and also wildlife habitat. But as the temperatures continue to rise, water resources will become more constrained and weather patterns will become more erratic and extreme. And the state's farmers and ranchers will need access to research and demonstration, to technical assistance, to conservation incentives to help them adapt to these new growing patterns. We urge your support of SB 237 as a critical first step in California moving forward to address climate change and ag issues that will help assure a stable and sustainable food supply for the years and decades to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. And if we could ask other witnesses to come forward who are in support at this time and just give your name, your organization, and your support position. And I think we've got a pair of seats that are available for that purpose.
Mr. Chair, members, Justin Malone on behalf of the Community Alliance with Family Farmers and the Ecological Farming Association, very much in support of this bill. We'd like to be part of the solution.
Next witness, please.
Dennis Albiani on behalf of the California Seed Association, California Grain and Feed, and Pacific Egg and Poultry Association. We supported concept. We'd not be able to get a letter in. We've been working with the author and the staff, but we believe.
Just name.
I understand, Mr. Smiddian, but we are different than some of these other folks.
Then let me ask you to step away from the microphone,
okay,
and we'll call you up at another time, please. We're looking for witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Miriam Gordon. I'm the California Director of Clean Water Action, and we urge your aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Rachel O'Brien on behalf of the Union of Concerned Scientists in support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Sue Vane, Californians Against Waste, also supporting this bill.
Thank you. Do we have any other witnesses who are in support? Do we have any witnesses who are in a clear opposed position? Witnesses in opposition? And I see more than a couple. Can you all sort out who will speak for 2 minutes and 2 minutes? Yes?
Good afternoon. Brenda Coleman here on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. First off, I'd like to apologize to the committee for getting our letter in late, but we're not reflected on the analysis, so my apologies for that. While we appreciate and understand the importance of addressing climate change impacts as it relates in this case to the agriculture industry, with much uncertainty in the cap-and-trade regulation, we really question the appropriateness of this measure at this time. Currently, the AB 32 scoping plan is in the midst of legal challenges, and there is much uncertainty in the cap-and-trade program. While a regulation was adopted this past December, it was adopted with several missing key elements, such as benchmarking and offsets. These and other important elements have yet to be finalized, but they must be done so between now and the end of the year. So we currently have a non-functioning program, yet this measure seeks to spend money that currently does not exist and might never exist. Given the facts and the current status of the program, we believe that it's premature to be having this discussion. That said, we believe that this discussion can and may be had at a later date. We believe that when and if appropriate, climate change impacts should be addressed, not specifically pertaining to one specific industry, as this measure seeks to do, but any other relevant industries as well. We appreciate Senator Wolk's intent and goals under this bill, but we believe that it's much too premature to be having this discussion given the current status of cap and trade. So for these reasons, we must respectfully oppose, and we urge your no vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members. My name is Dorothy Rothrock. I'm with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association, and I want to echo the comments of the Cal Chamber and add a few more. There are other hurdles associated with the revenue raising and distribution issues for the cap and trade program or any of the market mechanisms in the AB 32 program. First of all, we don't think that AB 32 grants the ARB authority to raise revenues for any other purposes other than administrative fees. So revenues for the administrative purposes of the program only are allowed by the bill. Now, if the legislature wants to grant further fee authority to the agency, then there needs to be a clear nexus between the use of those revenues and the payers of those funds. The approved uses in this bill at this time look very broad, and it would be very difficult, I think, to imagine a fee, except perhaps a fee directly on the ag sector, that was then allowed to be used for the ag purposes that might meet the test associated with keeping it a fee and not a tax, which of course requires a 2/3 vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Do we have any other witnesses in opposition at this time? And again, if you could just give your name, your organization, and your opposed position, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Tony Francois for the Western States Petroleum Association. We're also opposed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Mark Smith on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of California, also opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Matthew Hard with the California Business Properties Association, also opposed.
Any other in a straight opposed position? This would be a good time if anyone has a split the difference position to come forward. We'll expect you to be Solomonic in your wisdom.
That's an invitation back.
It is.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. No, we are supportive, and we would put CDFA in chats. What we wanted to say is that this isn't just about agriculture. It's about complying with the carbon laws in an efficient, economically efficient manner. And so it applies to all different opportunities within that agriculture, and that's what we support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who's a tweener at this point? All right, thank you. Then the matter is back before the committee. Senator Wolk, are there any comments you'd like to respond to before we open it up to questions, or would you like to go straight to questions?
Why don't we do questions?
Members, are there questions from the committee? Some members will recall this is substantially similar to the measure that Senator Wolk authored that we passed out of committee
Correct.
in the last session. My recollection is you had some struggles in the Appropriations Committee, and that goes to some of the dollar issues that were referenced in the testimony, I think. And,
Mr. Chair, if you'd like me to speak to that, I'd be glad to. I thought that the main, we knew that there would be issues about the timeliness of the bill in the previous session. We thought it was important to raise the issue nonetheless. And that really was the reason that it was held in appropriations, that it was seen to be premature. We think that it is no longer the case. And,
all right. Thank you. Members, the one observation I would make is that, as the Senator has mentioned in her opening remarks, there is still an open mind on the part of the author about who the lead agency driving this enterprise might be. We would ask that if the bill moves out of committee today, that the author commit to keeping the committee staff informed.
Absolutely.
Obviously, sure. The viability and appropriateness of the effort will, in no small measure, be a function of just who's driving the effort. So that becomes an important consideration, I think, almost without regard to where folks are on the underlying question. Other than that request, and appreciate the author's commitment, prepared to take a motion to move the measure forward. There are no amendments here in committee today, and do pass. Senator Lowenthal, move the bill. All right. Senator Wolk, unless you've got additional comments, I think I'm going to call the roll.
I don't. The only reason that I'm holding it open, as you said, on the question of which agency, is that there is a new sheriff in town. There's a new director, Karen Ross, and she has some ideas that we would like to be sure we incorporate, since the funding is basically agricultural.
Thank you. Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Simidian.
Aye.
Simidian, aye. Strickland.
No.
Strickland, no. Blakesley. Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Kehoe. Lowenthal. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley.
That is 3-1 at this time. We will hold the roll open for absent members. Thank you very much, and thank you to witnesses from all sides. All right, that takes us, members, before we get to the next item, since we have a quorum here, why don't we go ahead and ask for a motion on the consent calendar. The consent calendar today, members, consists of 2 items. Item number 10 and 11, items number 10 and 11, Senate Bill 880 by Senator Corbett, and item number 11, which is Senate Bill 909 by Senator LaMalfa. There are amendments on the LaMalfa measure. So the consent calendar, item 10, and then item 11 as amended. We've got a motion from Senator Strickland. Thank you. Call the roll on the consent calendar, please.
Senator Simidian.
Aye.
Simidian, aye. Strickland. Strickland, aye. Blakesley. Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Kehoe. Lowenthal. Aye. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley. 4 ayes, 1 no, or no notes.
We have 4 ayes, and that is sufficient, but we're going to hold the roll open for absent members so that they may add on if they wish. And then also, for those of you who are listening either here in the committee room or on the speaker system, 2 items have been pulled at the author's request. Item number 7 and item number 9, both by Senator Correa, have been pulled at the author's request. So items 7 and 9 are no longer on our agenda today. That takes us back to almost the beginning of our published agenda. Item number 2 is Senator Cannella and file order. I know the senator has some scheduling challenges, and we're going to try and work those through if we can today, and if not, we'll continue that item until a subsequent meeting. Then item number 3, Senator Huff. Item number 4, Senator Corbett. Item number 5, Senator DeSaulnier. Item number 6, Senator Lowenthal, since you are here, would you like to present on this item? Yeah. You can help us move the business of the committee forward, Senator. Senator Lowenthal, thank you. You have agenda item number 6. This is SB 568. Why don't you begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Senate Bill 568 would prohibit a food vendor or a restaurant on or after January 1st, 2013 from dispensing prepared food to a customer in a polystyrene foam food container, otherwise known as styrofoam, or more technically as expanded polystyrene foam, or EPS. EPS is pervasive in the marine environment. Like most plastics, polystyrene is lightweight and it floats. When it's littered, it easily is carried by the wind, the rain from streets into our storm drains, and then makes its way into our local waterways and ultimately to the ocean. It's been estimated that 60 to 80% of all marine debris and 90% of floating debris are one form or another of a plastic. A study of beach debris at 43 sites along the Orange County coast found that EPS was the second most abundant form of beach debris. In the environment, foam packaging breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces until it's easily mistaken for food by marine animals, which can cause irreparable harm. There's no meaningful food service EPS recycling. Let me say that. There is no meaningful recycling of food service EPS in California. EPS foodware that's contaminated from food residue has to be washed, which makes recycling not really very cost effective. Food service EPS, by its very nature, only has a useful life that can be measured in minutes or hours, yet it persists in the environment for an unknown period of time, hundreds to perhaps thousands of years. Today, 47 jurisdictions in California, including Alameda, Capitola, Oakland, Seaside, the counties of Monterey and Ventura, all have successfully banned EPS. Additionally, the cities of Sacramento and Portland have recently banned EPS. Most of these cities are taking action because foam litter clogs storm drains and causes flooding. Furthermore, it breaks into small pieces. Foam presents big challenges to city litter control efforts, and these result in increased tax costs to taxpayers. All of those jurisdictions that I've mentioned, food vendors provide their takeouts in alternative packaging, which includes paper, plastic, compostable materials, aluminum foil, etc., all of which are approved for food service contact by the FDA and used widely in the food service industry. It's important to have a statewide policy and uniformity regarding this pervasive nuisance. Opponents will argue that EPS foodware is recyclable. However, that is not the case. There is pending litigation in the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office against one of the EPS manufacturers regarding this claim. Expanded polystyrene foodware does not meet Federal Trade Commission green guidelines for the definition of recyclable because it cannot be put into the overwhelming majority of jurisdictions' curbside recycling bins. Opponents will also argue that this bill will hurt California jobs. However, there are many companies in California that produce recyclable or compostable food takeout containers and dozens of communities that distribute them. For example, the Hutamaki plant right here in Sacramento makes Chinette brand of paper plates, trays, and cups. Additionally, the company's Biosphere in Senator Strickland's district in Carpinteria makes high-quality compostable products for takeout packaging. The alternative packaging business sector in California is growing along with consumer demand. This bill presents an opportunity to increase jobs and help California's green economy. It has the broad support, 568, of local governments, including cities, counties, sanitation districts, environmental groups, and businesses here in California, and I ask for your aye vote.
Witnesses in support, and let me just ask, how many folks are here to speak in support of this measure? And how many are here to speak in opposition to the measure? Okay. Go right ahead. Let's try and stick to our 2 and 2 rule. I think that will work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Miriam Gordon. I'm the California Director of Clean Water Action. Through grassroots community organizing, we talk to 300 to 400 residents per day at their front doors about local environmental issues. A majority of them hate polystyrene foam because it degrades communities, and they're concerned about marine plastic pollution. Polystyrene comprises 15% of street litter and storm drain litter. Recent stormwater regulations require many California jurisdictions to reduce trash discharges to zero, and it's taxpayers who are footing the bill for the increasing costs of trash control. The State Board is considering taking this measure statewide for stormwater regulation. Polystyrene bans are a solution. After the first year of San Francisco's ban, polystyrene street litter decreased by 36%. While some other packaging products increased in litter, they are generally easier to remove because they don't break apart like foam. Some argue that the alternatives cost too much. The reality is that if a food vendor chooses a more costly food container, the cost is passed on to customers without notice because it's an insignificant add-on to the thousands of meals served in a year. That's why local food businesses have not requested any exemptions from the local bans based on claims of financial hardship, as allowed in many local ordinances. Some argue recycling is a better approach, but the California Waste Management Board report to the legislature stated that less than 0.2% of polystyrene foodware is being recycled in California, and concluded that recycling is not cost effective. Polystyrene has to be clean to be recycled. The cost of collecting food-contaminated foam packaging, transporting it, and washing it far outweigh the value of the recycled resin. At a recent San Jose City Council hearing, one recycler admitted that the only food containers they accept are egg cartons. Takeout food packaging is just too contaminated. The polystyrene industry has funded studies to show that their product saves energy and greenhouse gases. But in more objective studies, when the cradle-to-grave impacts are accurately analyzed, we learn that polystyrene often requires more energy and water and has higher greenhouse gas emissions than other products. The styrene that leaches from foam containers into food and beverages is a known lab animal carcinogen and increases the risk of cancer in factory workers. There are better, safer options for food containers and opportunities to increase green jobs in California. On behalf of our Clean Water Action's 85,000 members in California and fish, turtles, and seabirds who are starving with stomachs full of plastic, I strongly urge you to vote aye on SB 568.
Thank you for your comments. Next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Asim Das, and I'm the CEO and founder of World-Centric. We are based out of Palo Alto, and we...
and that is in the center of whose district, sir?
Yours.
That would be shameless on the part of the author, but appreciated nonetheless. Go right ahead.
I was going to ask that same question.
There you go.
And we make wheat straw and sugarcane fiber molded products to replace EPS food disposables. Some of these you can see here. I'd like to share with you what we are seeing on the street in the food service disposables market. What we are seeing currently is a growing and increasing demand for alternatives to EPS, and largely this demand is being driven by consumers. Consumers are becoming more environmentally aware and of the environmental costs of EPS, and they're demanding businesses to give them other alternatives other than EPS. And you can see that across the board with universities, schools, big business cafeterias, restaurants, all changing over from EPS to molded fiber products or other alternatives. Some of the examples we have where we actually supply to are Google, Apple, numerous school districts in the Alameda School County, Stanford, University of Berkeley, and even larger chains like Jamba Juice and Foster Farms, who are doing meat packaging, are looking at replacements for EPS. Studies from Fredonia, which is a research organization, show that compostable products or bioplastic products are increasing at the rate of 18% year over year, while the normal food service market is only increasing at 3% year-to-year growth. World-Centric, since inception, has actually grown 200% year-to-year without much sales and marketing effort. At this point, we are looking at actually siting a manufacturing facility in California to use ag waste, which will create 50 green jobs and possibly much more additional jobs in the future years. And the use of ag waste also will bring down the prices of these products to be very comparable to EPS or lower than EPS. Currently, some of the cost of the increased cost...
If I could ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay. So in closing, I like to urge you to vote yes on this bill.
Thank you very much. Other witnesses in support, please.
Justin Malone on behalf of the local environmental health directors. This is a plague. It needs to stop. No need for it.
Just name, organization, please, and support or oppose position.
Kirsten James with Heal the Bay in support.
Thank you so much.
Sarah Manzata with California Coastkeeper Alliance in support.
Thank you.
Steve Assetti, California Coastal Coalition in support.
Thank you.
Casey Kaneko of Suter and Associates on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco in support.
Thank you.
Ed Behrens on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in support.
Thank you.
Sue Vane, Californians Against Waste in support.
Environment California, strong support.
Andrew Roth on behalf of the Sierra Club California, we support.
Thank you.
Michael Radigan on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Santa Clara County, here in support.
Thank you. Do we have any other witnesses in support?
Lauren Gilligan from Save Our Shores in support.
Thank you.
Elena Urkaneff, Surf Riders Youth Program in support.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Do we have witnesses in opposition to the measure? Do we have any other witnesses in opposition? If so, you can come up and take a seat in the front row here. Thanks very much. Who'd like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Matt Sutton. I'm with the California Restaurant Association. We're a trade organization of 22,000 restaurants in California. Most of them would be what you would consider small mom and pop or independent establishments. The restaurant community certainly takes the issue of litter very seriously, and it's one we understand where the senator is coming from. We disagree about the approach. Marine debris is a huge issue. It's something that has to be dealt with. However, discriminatory selection and elimination of a food service product is not the approach we think should be taken. When litter reduction occurs on city streets, the amount of material that flows through storm drains, rivers, and eventually into the ocean is also reduced. That's why we support efforts that are aimed at reducing the overall volume of litter that's going into the ocean. So an overall approach to get to the volume of all materials, not just one specific product. For us, we're the end users of these products. So polystyrene is incredibly efficient, and it's keeping food hot and cold food cold. You'll see it used in smoothie shops, yogurt shops, coffee, tea. So it has a great function for our members in terms of keeping food at its appropriate temperature. And for us, that's a big deal because obviously we don't want to have foodborne illnesses or anything of that nature. So it's a very efficient product. For an industry that on average takes less than 5 cents in profit for every dollar that comes through the door, cost also has to be a consideration in addition to function. These products tend to be 2 to 3 times less expensive, and in an economy like we're in today, restaurateurs are looking at every penny. So we recognize and we agree that there's a litter problem, and marine pollution is a big deal. We want to work towards eliminating or at least reducing the amount of litter out there. And we do see polystyrene being recycled. It may not be being recycled in every community in the state, but for us, we sort of look at it and say there are some clear examples where it's working, and we would love to work to encourage or help build the infrastructure for greater recycling of polystyrene. The ban, that may change the composition of litter. We're not sure it necessarily reduces the amount of litter because litter bugs don't discriminate in what they're throwing on the ground. So in closing, I just say greater recycling of this product is where we think we can go over the long term in the future, and we think that's a little better approach. And for these reasons, we have to oppose the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you. My name is Michael Westerfield. I work for Dart Container Corporation. We have 2 plants here in California. We employ over 700 employees that would all lose their jobs if this ban went through. Since 2007, we've been working very hard to ensure that the public does have access to foam recycling, namely curbside recycling. There's now more than 40 communities across the state, cities, that have access to foam recycling, so they can actually put foam food service containers in their bin so they'll be recycled. Cities include Los Angeles, more than half of the cities in LA County, city of Tracy, Long Beach, Riverside. And if you add up the population of all these cities, it's almost 20% of the population of California. So to say that there's not foam recycling in California, it's simply not true. We've been also working on a number of drop-off programs. We've got one starting in Santa Clara County. We have 2 starting in San Diego County. We know they're going to be successful, just like our drop-offs at our plant, where we're recycling more than 1 million school lunch trays per month. Schools like Long Beach are saving a lot of money. They've done the analysis to switch to alternatives. Long Beach decided to recycle their foam trays because it was going to cost them $1.2 million. And to say that it's insignificant, to have that type of upgrade is crazy. I mean, talk to one teacher that got laid off and see how she feels about a school district spending an extra $1.2 million for a lunch tray that performs better than the alternatives. While foam is only 1% of the waste stream, food service foam is even less. It's only 1/3 of that 1%. The vast majority of it is protected packaging foam, which this ban won't deal with, but our recycling programs will. It's acceptable in all of our recycling programs across the state. The markets for foam are also doing well. One manufacturer in Southern California is making picture frames like this. In 2006, they only had 3 employees. Now they have more than 30 employees. Their business is thriving. Most months they process 350,000 pounds of foam. Sometimes they process 500,000 pounds of foam. Again, I think that's significant. Their only roadblock to further growth is additional volume, and if our products get banned, a lot of the programs that they have are going to stop. In closing, recycling foam is no longer a hypothetical situation. Food service operators are now able to take advantage of foam's low cost, high performance, plus recyclability, and real jobs are being created to recycle foam right here in California. We invite all of you committee members to please come to our plant if you want, or tour one of the recycling facilities.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Robert Callahan with the California Chamber of Commerce, here in opposition.
Thank you. Additional witnesses, just to name themselves, their organization, if any, and their opposed position, please.
Tim Shustak with the American Chemistry Council in opposition.
Thank you.
Crystal Jack, California Grocers Association, also in opposition.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Joe Ackler, representing the Society of Plastics Industry, also opposed.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Lori Hansen, representing the Pactiv Corporation. We have 7 plants in California that would be affected. Thank you. In opposition.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? And anybody who's in that in-between category? All right, that brings it back to the committee. Senator Strickland.
I would just, if I can, bring up the Restaurant Association, gentlemen, really quick. Thank you for coming up. Did I hear your testimony correctly that your members are really moving off small margins here? 5 cents of every dollar is what you testified?
Yeah, on average, that's the figure in a good economy, so we're well below that.
Well, obviously, that was getting to my next question. So in this California economy, your members, how are they doing right now? Are they making that margin, or are most of them losing? I'm seeing a lot of going out of business, at least in my district. How's it going throughout the state?
Sure. I appreciate the question, and I'd say generally restaurants started to feel things way before anyone else did as we slipped, and they continue to struggle and hang on. Those that are still out there have taken on massive debt over the last few years just to stay open. So there is a hope that they can start chipping away at this and, get back in the black as soon as possible. And around here, to be honest, it's usually the cumulative impact of lots of different bills that have cost impact, and that's what you would hear from restaurants.
I'm sure you communicate with other restaurants in different states. I know, for example, one of my major employers, CKE, is now talking about moving their headquarters to Texas, and they haven't opened up a new restaurant in a few years here in California. Is it more costly to do business for your members in California than, say, some of the other states like Texas?
Absolutely. The permitting process alone, amongst lots of other specific costs to California, are a challenge here that don't exist in other places. Argument is often made restaurants aren't going to pick up and leave. That may be true, but they're going to have to trim around the edges, and that's people's hours. And pretty soon you get down to the core of the restaurant, and you're seeing a lot of that today.
Now, did I hear your testimony correctly that it would be, if this bill passed, it would be 2 or 3 times more expensive and costly for your members to implement this bill if this bill was enacted into law?
Yes, generally. Now, we're the end users of this product, so we're at the end of the stream here, and 2 to 3 times more expensive for the alternative materials at this point. That's the figures that we have.
And you, again, testify in a good economy, you're working on a margin of 5 cents per every dollar.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not a good economy, so this would not be helpful for your members at all.
It's an additional cost burden that we don't find helpful, and to the extent you're banning something, you're reducing the pool of available products and thereby driving up the price. So it's a concern for our
Thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Senator Lowenthal, the one question I might raise is with respect to the issue of recyclable and being recycled or not. There were some very different perspectives on that issue offered. If we can ask you to speak to that and or have one of your witnesses speak to that would be helpful. And before you do that, if we could ask Senator Huff, there's a seat for you here in the front if you'd like to take it. We've got a staff member who's going to step away and let you take a seat. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one of the opposition people were from the Dart Container Corporation, and they spoke about that it can be recycled. I just refer you to recently the district attorney of Sacramento County said that's ridiculous. There is no recycling of foodware polystyrene, EPS recycling. And the advertisement that they had put up in I think it was in the Sacramento airport, talked about the same statement that was made, recycling. The district attorney requested that they remove that. They did remove that ad. And so in response, that there are, as I pointed out, that food wares that are EPS, that are recyclable. First of all, it is very costly to clean it. And then when it's cleaned, there is no incentive because of the return on it. There's no redemption value such as we do have for other products for glass, and therefore it costs more to recycle than it's worth. This is not a product that meets our criteria for recycling. That doesn't mean that some cities go out of their way because they do not want to, now that it's out there, they do not want to just litter. But they admit that they don't make any money and there's no money in the recycling, and that to think that we're going to recycle this as the way of maintaining and dealing with the tremendous amount that ends up in our ocean is just silly. It's just not true. And I will, in my close, talk about the other issue about restaurants throughout the state. When I list all the cities in this state that now have banned this and have very successful, just as successful, there's no data to support that their restaurants are doing food service any worse than any, including your own county of Ventura, which has a ban.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and let the gentleman from Dart Industries comment briefly because you referenced his comment specifically. I am going to ask that in the future, witnesses not come back up to the front unless they've been specifically invited or asked by a member of the committee. So don't want you modeling bad behavior and having others take after you, sir. All right?
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to comment as far as the issue with the DA's office. We ran an ad in the Sacramento airport that said foam cups are recyclable. We included a list of locations. They didn't like that ad because it was inferring to people that are residents of Sacramento that foam is recyclable there to 60% of them, and that's not the case. We removed the ad, and we have a new ad that says recyclable in the city of LA. Why not your city too? It's targeted at lawmakers, so they'll include foam in their recycling programs. The other part is, you mentioned glass. Glass gets 5 cents for every 2,000 pounds that you recycle. That's it. Foam, including food service containers, is now getting upwards of 27 cents per pound. Not per 2,000 pounds, per pound. And Senator Huff just awarded NEPCO the Green Business of the Year award because they're making products like this out of food service right now.
Thank you. Senator Lowenthal, I know you've got one of your witnesses sitting next to you on this issue. Any further comment? I do think this is an important issue, the extent to which the product is or is not recyclable and the extent to which it is or is not being recycled.
Well, as I said, thank you for, I thought I was motioned up here by staff. I wouldn't normally come up.
That's fine.
The question is whether it's economically feasible and who's paying the cost. So, the cost of bringing this stuff, contaminated foodware, back to a recycling facility and washing it and transporting it adds to the cost. Who's paying the cost of that, and does that make sense? It's really taxpayers who are footing the bill for something that gets sold at about, a recycled resin gets sold at about the same price as a virgin resin. So it doesn't really make sense to add all those additional costs of recycling. And I was at a City of San Jose hearing just a month ago where one of the recyclers that collects the materials for use in those picture frames and moldings, architectural moldings, said that the only food products that they are using in their recycled resins are egg containers because the other stuff is just too contaminated. So while it may be happening in some places, I think we have to ask ourselves whether it's worth adding all those additional costs and having taxpayers pay for it.
All right. Thank you very much. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Then why don't we let Senator Lowenthal close and then ask for a motion on the bill. All right.
Yeah, I just want to respond to, I think it was a very thoughtful question and really gets to the heart of it by Senator Strickland, who said, hey, is this, restaurants operate on a very small margin in the state. Is this going to put them in jeopardy? We're in an economically difficult time. I will just list you all the cities now that have banned this in the state quickly when I said 47. Alameda, Albany, Aliso Viejo, Berkeley, Calabasas, Capitola, Carmel. Some of these will be counties. Delray Oaks, Emeryville, Fairfax, Fremont, Hayward, Hercules, Huntington Beach, Laguna Hills, Laguna Woods, Los Angeles, the city and the county, City of Malibu, Marin, Millbrae, Monterey, Newport Beach, County of Ventura, city and county of San Francisco, County of Sonoma, South San Francisco, Scotts Valley, Santa Cruz, Santa Monica, San Mateo, San Jose, San Juan Capistranos, San Clemente, San Bruno, Riverbank, Richmond, Pittsburgh, Palo Alto, Pacifica, Pacific Grove, Orange, and Oakland. These restaurants are still doing as well in those cities as we have in other cities. There are many, many alternatives, including alternatives in Senator Strickland's own district, a business that provides alternative for food, where we're only talking, and when DART says they'll lose 700 jobs, we are only talking about foodware. Much of their product still will be able to be developed and sold. If you go into a large store, Costco, you will still be able to purchase it. It is only so we're talking about banning it when it comes into contact with foodware that's sold either by vendors selling food or restaurants. I ask for your aye vote in a very sensible measure.
Motion by Senator Kehoe. This is agenda item number 6. I don't believe there are any amendments. Call the roll.
Senator Simidian?
Aye.
Simidian, aye. Strickland?
No.
Strickland, no. Blakesley? Hancock? Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal?
Aye.
Lowenthal, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. 4 noes, 4 ayes, 1 no.
The current vote is 4-1. You have sufficient votes, but we're going to hold the roll open for absent members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Huff, thank you for your patience. You are next up, sir. Members, this is agenda item 3, SB 456. And Senator Huff, before you begin, my understanding is you're prepared to take some amendments that were identified on page 4, item number 3. That's
yes,
correct?
Technical amendments.
And I am not aware of any opposition to the bill. Is that correct? Do we have anyone here today who is in opposition to the bill? All right. Perhaps that can guide us in both our testimony, our witnesses, and our questions. Senator Huff, please proceed.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. SB 456 is important for these reasons. California's regulated public collection of household hazardous waste since 1996. Many communities now implemented this extremely popular door-to-door collection program, which can be scheduled at the customer's convenience. Collection averages 85 pounds per household, demonstrating this program significantly promotes the collection of household hazardous waste. Other communities are interested in implementing this program, but current restrictions on methods by which household hazardous waste can be transferred add to the cost without providing any additional safety for the public. SB 456 simply eases onerous and unnecessary restrictions on door-to-door collection programs by codifying an existing program which has been permitted on a case-by-case basis. Bill Anderson's here to testify in support and answer any questions. Mr. Anderson serves as Senior Manager for Waste Management's At Your Door Special Collection. Bill founded the company in Southern California in 1995 and was a pioneer in the collection of household hazardous waste from residents' homes. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Bill Anderson. I'm a Senior Manager for At Your Door Special Collection, which is a waste management company. At Your Door was originally named Curbside, Inc. We've been operating since 1996 and serve customers in 30 communities in California and 7 states throughout the U.S. We provide door-to-door collection of various types of special waste, including paints, motor oil, household cleaners, solvents, batteries, CFLs, and other toxic materials. The program is designed to provide a convenient and cost-effective method to safely manage residential household hazardous waste and maximize diversion of these materials from improper disposal and illegal dumping of these environmentally harmful products. A local government contracts with At Your Door to provide door-to-door collection for some or all of the materials that we collect. A resident calls At Your Door and schedules a pickup. On the scheduled day, the resident places their items in a secured bag in front of their door or in front of their garage. We collect about 85 pounds of HFCs. Those are the toxic materials plus a great deal more in electronics and other universal waste. I thank you for the opportunity to discuss At Your Door today, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next witness.
Rosalie Muley with Waste Management, and I'm just here to support. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? If you're in support, if you just come forward and give us your name, your organization, and your support position, please.
Sue Vane, Californians Against Waste, in support.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Any witnesses in opposition? We have a motion to approve the measure. Any comments or questions from members of the committee? We had an enthusiastic exclamation from Senator Pavley, I believe. That was good. Good, good. All right.
I already reviewed this, and my understanding it was going to possibly be on the consent calendar. I don't have any problems or concerns.
All right. We have a motion from Senator Strickland. Senator Huff, would you like to close?
I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Simidian?
Aye.
Simidian, aye. Strickland? Aye. Strickland, aye. Blakesley? Hancock? Kehoe? Lowenthal? Aye. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. 4 ayes.
We have.
Please note.
We have 4 aye votes. There are no votes. Senator Huff, you have sufficient, but we're going to hold the roll open for absent members, and we'll say thank you very much. A reminder once again, that's as amended, members, as amended. Thank you. That takes us to Senator Corbett with item number 4, SB 515. And I should just mention I need to step away at 3:30. I'll hand the gavel over to Senator Strickland and then be back. I have a 3:30 appointment that I have to honor.
I'll talk real fast.
That's all right. Now take your time. We'll leave you in Senator Strickland's capable hands here, but I will have to step away for a bit at 3:30. Thank you.
Members, this bill may be very familiar to you. This year it's entitled SB 515. This bill is very similar to the bill that passed this committee last year that would allow for a new system working with manufacturers to design and operate a stewardship program to properly manage and recycle batteries here in California. I want to thank you who supported the bill last year, and it did pass through the Senate. It was held up in Assembly Appropriations even after we addressed the fiscal issues. But this year, I have exciting news for you. There's a new development in the recycling of batteries world, and that is many companies that were in opposition to this bill last year have come to us and would like to work together to establish this country's first ever battery stewardship program. Some of these companies that have come to us are Energizer, Sony, Panasonic, Sanyo, Black & Decker, Motorola, and Dell, and I want to thank them for that. We're working with them and other companies to see what we can do to increase opportunities for recycling batteries. Some companies have asked us to take a look at exempting foreign-made batteries from the bill, but I am a little concerned about that as it might create a problem for our U.S. battery manufacturers who want to create a battery stewardship program here in California. U.S. battery manufacturers would like to level the playing field and would like to see this bill include foreign-made batteries as well. Battery manufacturers are currently participating in stewardship programs in other countries, such as Canada, Europe, Asia, Central America, South America, and where household batteries are being collected without bankrupting local governments or inconveniencing consumers or hurting industries. And I think we should follow their example. Instead, battery stewardship has created new industries and new jobs in those countries. In fact, California's Employment Development Department has already cited battery recycling as part of California's growing green economy. We want to work with all the stakeholders, learn lessons from other countries and their efforts in order to come up with legislation that will create a robust effort and provide convenient collection points for both alkaline and rechargeable batteries. SB 515 will create a solution to manage battery waste. Those of you that come from local government probably remember the additional dollars local governments have to spend in order to monitor landfills and collection sites. to make sure that we keep this toxic waste out of those landfills. This bill would help create additional investment in green jobs, collecting and recycling these batteries, and saving dollars for our local governments. I'd like to introduce Heidi Sanborn, who is here from the California Product Stewardship Council, and Jeff Becerra, who's with StopWaste.org. They're both here to testify in support of the bill.
Thank you very much. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Thank
Who'd
you.
like to begin?
I'll go ahead and begin.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Simitian and committee members. I'm Jeff Becerra with StopWaste.org. We are responsible for reducing the waste stream in Alameda County, and we're a sponsor of SB 515. Household batteries are banned from landfill disposal in California and classified as a universal waste, but because few options exist for their disposal, most of these end up in landfills. Batteries should go to household hazardous waste facilities, but less than 1% do. We fund 3 HHW facilities in Alameda County, and it costs us more than $2,500 per ton to pay for the equipment and labor to dispose of batteries. We dispose about 100,000 pounds of batteries annually, and that number is growing. We can't afford to keep doing this. Our household hazardous waste program is currently operating at a nearly $1 million annual deficit. StopWaste.org is sponsoring SB 515 because an effective bill can alleviate the significant financial burden and keep batteries out of landfills. And Alameda County is not alone on this issue. Our situation is representative of what's happening with local jurisdictions throughout the state. We know that battery stewardship programs work because they've been successful in other countries. So it's time for the battery industry to take a leadership role managing their products at end of life here in California as well. Why should we be excluded from programs that work well elsewhere? I urge your support of this bill to keep batteries out of landfill and reduce the financial burden that local governments face to manage hazardous products at their end of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm Heidi Sanborn, representing the California Product Stewardship Council, and we strongly support SB 515. We are an organization of California local governments and their associations, waste haulers, and businesses, which formed in response to the universal waste disposal ban back in 2006. We have a single mission, which is to reduce or to shift California's product waste management system from one that's focused on government-funded and ratepayer-financed waste diversion to one that relies on producer responsibility to reduce public costs and drive improvements in product design. There are now 114 local governments which have adopted resolutions in support of product stewardship, including the counties of San Mateo, Santa Cruz, and Ventura, and the cities of Oakland, Los Angeles, and Signal Hill. The city of San Diego additionally has a legislative platform in support of EPR, and their staff recently attended a meeting with me and the Cal Chamber Environment Committee. In short, governments in all of your districts support the product stewardship approach, especially for universal waste. CPSC has been a strong advocate for the adoption of the CalRecycle framework for an extended producer responsibility system, which was adopted in 2008. Until a framework approach is approved, we support individual product EPR bills like SB 515 because it follows the EPR framework principles. We are also supporting it because green chemistry regulations are stalled. In addition, batteries are one of the top 3 most expensive products for local governments to manage, with disposal costs ranging from $800 to $2,700 a ton, when garbage is around $40 a ton. So in this economy, why would this committee support this bill? Number one is public support. In focus groups that we did and phone surveys completed in San Gabriel Valley last year, the public told us that, number one, they believe producers should have the primary responsibility to manage their products since they made them. 2, that consumers acknowledge they should pay the costs, not the general taxpayer. They didn't think that was fair. 3, they want recycling to be much more convenient or they just won't do it. And 4, only 1 in 20 knew where their household hazardous waste facility was. Number 2, district support. I have copies of resolutions from jurisdictions in all of your districts in support of this concept. Number 3 is the public approach versus the private approach. The cost of $1,000 a ton is outrageous, and we need the private sector competition to bring these costs into line. Number 4 is reduce greenhouse gases.
Wrapping up, please.
Okay. We're shipping our batteries to Canada and Pennsylvania for recycling. There's a lot of reasons to support this, but we are going to see local rules and ordinances pass across the state if we don't see a state solution, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Additional witnesses in support, please. And if we could ask these witnesses to step away and make room at the table, please. Name, organization, and support position, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Christy Baumer representing the California Professional Firefighters in support.
Thank you very much.
Victoria Rome with Natural Resources Defense Council in support.
Thank you.
Casey Kaneko of Suter and Associates on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco in support.
Thank you.
Bill McGavin, Sierra Club, California in support.
Kara Martinson on behalf of the California State Association of Counties in support of this bill.
Rachel O'Brien on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters in support.
Thank you.
Ed Behrens on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in support.
Thank you.
Michael Radigan on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Santa Clara County in support.
Thank you.
Tressa Wallace with the Solid Waste Association of North America and the City of Santa Monica, both in support.
Margaret Gladstein on behalf of the California Retailers Association in support.
Sue Vane, Californians Against Waste in support.
Leslie McFadden on behalf of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors in support.
Thank you. Jenna Price on behalf of the Planning and Conservation League in support.
Justin Malone for the Environmental Health Directors in support.
Thank you. Are there any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? And as I indicated a minute ago, before we hear from the witnesses in opposition, unfortunately, I need to step away for a 3:30 meeting. I'm going to ask Senator Strickland to carry on from this point forward. I do want to ask before I go, Senator Corbett, you mentioned that you've got some folks who are coming together to work with you on some of the outstanding issues here. And I know that there are some folks on the opposed list, which is not uncommon in this committee. Two commitments I'd like to ask for you. One is to pull our committee staff into further conversations about where the bill goes so that the committee can stay engaged, given the fact that there are still some outstanding issues. And then number two, just want to acknowledge that the committee, of course, retains jurisdiction, and as the bill takes shape, and perhaps somewhat different shape, we would, of course, reserve the right to bring the bill back to committee as things move through the process. And
yes, of course, Mr. Chair, there's some tweeners who you will hear from.
Good. All right. Well,
and we're glad to keep your staff involved. Thank you for that.
Thank you. After Senator Strickland, the gavel is yours, and after we hear from those who are in opposition, if we could hear from those who may be in the tweener category, that would be helpful, and I'll be back as soon as my appointment permits. Thank you.
Two individuals, 2 minutes each.
Mr. Chair and members, Ralph Simoni representing the National Electrical Manufacturers Association. These are the domestic alkaline battery manufacturers that Senator Corbett mentioned in her opening comments. We are opposed to the bill and, in fact, filed a letter on March 30 to that effect. However, in prior years on predecessor bills, you have heard me talk about lack of or minuscule contribution to the waste stream, lack of secondary uses, and various other things about battery collection. Senator Corbett is correct in this regard. There's been a change in the dialogue from my clients. That is, they have initiated on their own a nationwide stakeholder process. In fact, tomorrow and Wednesday in Dallas, they're having a battery summit. Some of the proponents' colleagues are in this open and transparent process, and we hope that we'll develop something. But I think that there are some fundamental differences between the philosophy and principles underlying that process and the current provisions of SB 515. And those key provisions are, number one, an underlying environmental net benefit. The battery industry has undertaken a life cycle analysis from that was done by MIT Applied Sciences Department. That is going to be used in developing these programs. Secondly, the principle of shared responsibility. That is not just the manufacturer, but everybody in the chain, the commercial chain, from manufacturer to distributor to retailer to consumer to local governments. And third, the third principle is efficiency and cost effectiveness of those programs. Yes, the battery industry is participating in programs like Belgium in Europe, but that's 17 cents a battery. That's going to get passed on to consumers. And until we have pilot projects and other things that can determine cost-effective ways of doing it, consumers are going to be absorbing these costs. As stated in our letter, and I'll wrap up here and be brief, SB 515 currently has numerous fee payments that are not capped or limited, where the stewardship organization is required to pay the state to perform various oversight functions. There's a considerable amount of bureaucratic involvement, and there are some unrealistic rates and dates, along with excessive fines and penalties for failing to make those rates. We do have a dialogue with Senator Corbett and her staff. We will continue to discuss those items in good faith, but make no mistake, there are some underlying philosophical differences that we have to overcome before we're going to sing Kumbaya and agree.
Thank you. Further witnesses, opposition.
Emily Pappas here today on behalf of Hewlett-Packard, a California-based company. We're here today. We must respectfully oppose Senator Corbett's bill. I would first like to start off by saying two things about Hewlett-Packard. First, HP is a manufacturer of high technological devices such as computers, printers, digital cameras. We do not manufacture batteries. Secondly, for the last 50 years, HP has been an environmental leader of environmental sustainability. Specifically, in 1991, we started our own Planet Partners program dealing with recycling and reuse and take-back. We started that with LaserJet print cartridges, and since then, we have now expanded it to most of our computer products containing batteries. By 2007, HP reached their goal of recycling and taking back over 1 billion pounds of computer hardware. And further, in our take-back program, we take back all HP products for free. We take back non-HP products for a minor fee. And we will also cut the customer for a non-HP or HP branded product a check if there's a residual value. So as you can tell from all of this, HP has invested a significant amount of time and money in doing our own take-back program. So what's the problem with this bill? SB 515 does not just mandate battery manufacturers to do a sustainability program, but it also mandates non-battery manufacturers, those like HP that have batteries in their products, to do so, regardless of whether a company has their own take-back program and does not manufacture batteries. So what's the impact on a company like HP? First of all, HP would be required to file an annual plan, which, as you may know, costs money and takes time. Secondly, HP would be required to meet potential unsustainable goals. And if you cannot meet those goals, HP would be faced with strict penalties and also, at worst case scenario, not be allowed to sell our products into California. Thirdly, HP would be required to pay fees to cover the state's costs. So in sum, we must respectfully oppose this bill and ask for your no vote unless there is something that takes into consideration what companies like HP have done for long before government's involvement in this program.
Witnesses in opposition only, identification purposes.
Kathy Van Osten, representing with Rosenkindle, representing Tech America and its member companies, including HP, Black & Decker, Motorola, and Dell.
Thank you.
John Hewitt on behalf of the Grocery Manufacturers Association in opposition.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Larissa Cespedes on behalf of the Toy Industry Association in opposition.
Thank you.
Consuelo Hernandez on behalf of the California Healthcare Institute, representing California's biomedical industry in opposition.
Thank you.
Jimmy Jackson representing Biocom in opposition.
Thank you.
Senator Scott Governor on behalf of the Rechargeable Battery Association. We're actually one of the tweener groups. We have an opposed unless amended. We have had multiple conversations with the author. They've gone well. We certainly haven't reached an agreement yet, and some of our concerns are actually different than those who came before me, but we are working with the senator.
Thank you. Any other in the audience that are tweeners? Okay. Any questions from the members? Will of the members? Senator Lowenthal would like to move it, and I believe the senator would like to close. Senator Corbett.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just as you can see, there's a dialogue that is open. We're very glad to have an opportunity to work with these entities. We're watching very carefully the work of these companies and their meetings that are occurring. I am happy to see that battery recycling is on the agenda for some of these companies, and very glad to figure out if there's a way we can all work together on a very important program that will not only be good for the environment, but will create jobs and will keep toxic waste out of the landfill and save our local governments a lot of money at a time when they could really use that help. So I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Lowenthal moved the bill. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Simidian, Strickland? No. Strickland, no. Blakesley? Hancock? Kehoe? Aye. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley? 2 aye, 1 no.
That bill remains on call right now, Senator.
Thank you very much, members.
Thank you. Sergeants, can we call the authors? I don't see any current authors. Yeah.
Senator Strickland,
Yeah.
I think I just wrote that everyone else should check before I came in.
Secretary, can we lift the calls while we're waiting for other authors? So let's go to the consent calendar first.
So moved.
Can we go to the consent calendar and open up? Thank you.
Thanks.
Consent calendar is file item 10 and file item 11.
Senators Blakesley? Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Pavley? That's 5 ayes.
Bill remains on call, 5 ayes. File item number 1, SB 237 by Wolk. Secretary, can you please open the roll?
Senators Blakesley? Senator Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Pavley? That's 4 ayes, 1 no.
Bill remains on call. Next, lifting the call of file item number 3, SB 456 by Huff. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senators Blakesley? Hancock? Kehoe? That's 4 ayes.
Okay, the bill remains on call, 4 ayes. Next, we have file item, we just did that one? Okay, you're done on the rest of them. Anybody else? Okay,
Item 4?
thank you, Secretary.
Oh, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we just did 4. We just did, everybody's here on 4. Okay, I'm sorry. File item number 6, sorry. I can see why you call. File item number 6, SB 568 by Senator Lowenthal. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Blakesley? Hancock? That's 4 ayes, 1 no.
Bill remains on call. Thank you.
Divide the team in half. Who's going to get custody?
I think she just needs
She gets the
outfield. She gets the outfield. He gets the infield. He gets the concession stand over at the left field and right field. She gets Dr. Jones.
Senator DeSaulnier, thank you for coming. Members, this is file item 5, SB 567. Senator, would you like to open?
I would be delighted. Sorry if I kept you. First of all, I'd like to start by accepting the, as authors' amendments, the clarification needed in comment 4 of the analysis, just for the record. And This bill, SB 567, should be familiar to some of the committee members. It came through this committee last year and went out of this committee on a 7-0 vote with bipartisan support. A previous bill that this bill is based on, which dealt with the same issue in regards to plastic bags, went out of this committee 6-1 when I was in the Assembly and was signed by the governor. So both of the bills are, from my perspective, truth in advertising bills where for compostability, there's a standard set by the American Society for Testing and Materials, ASTM, that's been established for compostability. So you can label your plastic product if you meet that standard. For compostability. For biodegradability, what this bill does, the same thing as the previous bill that I referred to did for bags, was to extend to all plastic products that you can't say it's biodegradable until ASTM comes up with a standard. And there's also provision, I believe, on page 4, the bottom of page 4, top of page 5, that the Department of Recycling and Recovery, if it comes up with standards that are beyond what ASTM would do or consistent with what the state's goals are, that you could also have these products labeled as biodegradable. But in the absence of a standard, you can't say that it is. A lot of issues around how long it takes for products to biodegrade, particularly in landfills. So we think it's best that we make sure it's clear to the public, though, when they buy these products, the product actually can do by a national standard what it says it can do. So we hope that we will continue to have bipartisan support. The bill ran into some opposition last year towards the end. We're more than willing to work with the opponents, but we want to make sure that we're consistent with the goal, which is to make sure there's truth of it in advertising and there's no greenwashing. So with that, I will turn it over to Sue Vang from the Californians Against Waste, who is the bill's sponsor.
Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Sue Vang with the environmental group Californians Against Waste. CAW supports SB 567, which would expand existing law on end-of-life claims for plastic bags and food packaging to all plastic products. SB 567, as mentioned, you've seen before in SB 1454. It passed through this committee and both floors before being vetoed by then Governor Schwarzenegger. It was good policy then, and it's good policy now. Biodegradable claims mislead consumers into believing a product will gradually and harmlessly break down in a natural environment, thereby reducing the barriers to littering. Biodegradable claims further lack the technical standards to verify them. These false advertising claims are important enough that the State Attorney General's office is reviewing several biodegradable claims made by plastic bottle and plastic bag manufacturers. Plastic products end up littering the environment and harming our water and soil quality, our wildlife, and our pocketbooks. The cleanup of litter is no small endeavor, costing California agencies a combined $375 million each year. By prohibiting false advertising of a plastic product's end-of-life cycle, SB 567 will give consumers the peace of mind that they're making the informed and correct choice when purchasing a product, and will also create a fair marketplace for those companies that are currently making truthful claims. We urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition? Hold on. We support? I'm sorry. Come on up. I apologize. I didn't see anybody standing up, but I apologize. Please come forward.
A late day. Miriam Gordon, Clean Water Action. We support and urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, members, Robin Black with Platinum Advisors on behalf of the Plastic Environmental Council. Regretfully, we're here today to oppose the bill, though we applaud the author for continuing to fight greenwashing in California. We're very optimistic that hopefully we'll be able to work with the author and work out amendments and eventually be able to remove our support. I have with me today Dr. Charles Lancelot, who is 45 years of expertise in dealing with plastics, and I'd like to introduce him.
Thank you, Doctor.
On behalf of the Environmental Council.
Good afternoon, members of the legislature, Chair. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak briefly here today. I am Dr. Charles Lancelot, representing the Atlanta-based Plastics Environmental Council. And I'll say at the outset that these remarks capture several weeks of very fruitful conversations with several members of the California Senate and their staffs, during which all were very cordial and very generous with their time and attention. And I want to emphasize up front just how much we value and appreciate the opportunities that all these people gave us to explain our position in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 567. By way of background, I've got a PhD degree in organic chemistry, and for the past 45 years I've been involved with virtually all aspects of plastics, their chemistry, manufacture, processing, use, and recycling. Senator DeSaulnier did take a very strong and very badly needed initiative several years ago with the intent of bringing an end to indiscriminate greenwashing and to lay the groundwork for the current law prohibiting the use of biodegradable terminology with plastic bags. A major study of the compostability of various plastics was executed here at Chico State. The investigator in that project today is on our technical advisory board. Now, the only ASTM standards that existed then and now to give a simple pass-fail rating to biological degradation was, as the Senator points out, D6400 for compostability and D7081 for marine degradability. So absenting others, these were incorporated with appropriate provisos in current law and in Senate Bill 567. But the present state-of-the-art technology for achieving significant plastic biodegradation in landfills was just emerging back then. And it had not progressed to the extent that it has today, largely through a very significant R&D effort underway in several laboratories, including up here at Chico State again. And the current R&D drive towards a pass-fail standard for landfill degradability is driven by the reality of where solid waste go. According to the U.S. EPA, 55% of solid waste go to landfills. The recovered portion is about 25% recycled and 8.5% commercially composted. I believe it's more like 50% here in California today. Now, the EPA reported in 2008 that 93% of plastics end up in landfills. So 93% landfills, 8.5% composted, 10 times as much, roughly. Plastics goes to landfills and to commercial composters. But most landfills today are not only biologically very active, but many of them are very important sources of recovered energy. And in South Carolina, a BMW plant is entirely powered by biogas from an adjacent waste management landfill. Here in the U.S., the total market for just two plastic raw materials, polypropylene, number 5, and polyethylene, it's 2 and 4, is roughly 45 billion pounds a year, and about a third of that goes to packaging applications. And at the 93% landfill bound rate, that means 14 billion pounds of just two types of potentially biodegradable plastic are disposed of in U.S. landfills each year. Now, on a sheer volume basis, that overwhelms the current availability of the very important naturally derived bioplastics like PLA and others. They're only about 1 billion pounds a year, compared to 14 billion pounds going into landfills today. Evolving state-of-the-art technology is commercially available in place today. It's in place today. It wasn't some years ago. That renders traditional petrochemically derived plastics biodegradable in landfills. And what makes this possible is the addition of novel materials, about 1% by weight, very small amounts, to otherwise conventional petro-based plastics.
Doctor, if you can wind up your comments.
Where we are today is all this extensive R&D and testing is based on the ASTM 5511 test method, which, as the Senator points out, is not a standard. It's a test method. We don't want to go back and revisit that, but I'll simply say that using a 5511 test method, we've gotten 10 to 40% observed biodegradability in 30 to 200 days under landfill indicative conditions. So that's what we ask, is not to disincentivize by enacting 567 the organizations that are currently involved in investing in the R&D required to take this work to the actual obtaining of that standard. The Senator pointed out the importance of obtaining a biodegradability standard for landfills. That's exactly what we're trying to do. It takes an extensive R&D effort, and we're just asking that we cooperate with California in the development, the continuation of this work, develop the standard so that within about a year or so we would have a genuine pass-fail standard for landfill biodegradability. I think it's just a matter of allowing the technology to catch up with the policy. So we do respectfully oppose Senate Bill 567 on that basis as currently written.
Thank you, Doctor. Any questions from committee members? Will of the committee? Bill's been moved by Senator Kehoe. Senator, would you like to close?
Just briefly, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote. We'll continue to work with the opponents, but with all due respect, this is about labeling. And until we actually know that it's biodegradable and biodegradable within a reasonable period of time, I would opine that it's best not to have a label on them and let them sell their product as the market would derive.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Senator Simitian? Strickland? No. Strickland, no. Lakesley? Hancock? Kehoe? Aye. Montijo, aye. Lowenthal? Lowenthal, aye. Pavley? 2 ayes, 1 no.
Senator, that bill remains on call. Thank you.
Any news on the lost patrols? I'm going to go to my office, but I'll keep the TV on. Yes, but I'm in my office. Call me.
Members, for those of you who are watching on the TV and all the members in the audience, file item number 2, SB 241 by Canella, will be moved to the next hearing that we have on environmental quality. Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Secretary, can we please lift the calls? First is the consent calendar file item 10 and 11. Or the consent calendar. Secretary, call the roll. Oh, wait. We have Senator Pavley here.
Okay.
Do you mind if we... This is the last bill. Senator, are you prepared to present?
I am. Trusting my voice will hold up.
Okay.
Or I'm prepared to vote on the consent calendar.
Okay, if you could just do the consent calendar, because I already opened up the roll on the consent calendar while Senator Pavley goes for it.
Okay. Senators Blakesley? Aye. Blakesley, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. That's 7 ayes.
The bill has 7 ayes, remains on call. Nope, close the roll. Close the roll. All right, members, Senator Pavley's here, file item number 8, SB 646. Senator,
Yes.
you may open.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to start off with thanking the committee, and particularly Rachel, for your input. We had a couple of meetings during the last few weeks. I agree, in essence, with the committee's comment. That's number 5 in the agenda, and commit to work with the committee staff to develop an amendment to remove instead of modify, as I originally intended, the section of the Health and Safety Code pertaining to enforcement of the lead and jewelry law. I consider this bill just a cleanup bill, and I think most members of the committee probably voted for this at one point in time. I was the original author of a bill back in 2006. It was Assembly Bill 1681 that established lead concentration limits for jewelry sold here in California, primarily focused on children, but adults as well. It was codified into law in the terms of a negotiated amended consent judgment, which settled a Proposition 65 case back in June of 2006. Essentially, it was a lawsuit with the Center of Environmental Health. It involved a Prop 65 case. It involved retailers. People negotiated a settlement regarding children's jewelry with lead standards and concentration limits codified in the settlement. But there were some other parts of it. And with this committee, I won't go over the problems with lead. We know exposure to lead with young children is not a good thing. Enforcement began in 2007, so it's been about 4 years later, and this is one of the advantages, I suppose, if you stay in the lucky enough to stay in the legislature several years, you can go back and look at the bills you passed and see how they're being enforced or implemented and see if there were problems. I wanted to share with you today a problem with this bill that was part of a consent decree, a settlement between all the parties. I dumped the contents of the settlement agreement into this bill. So I didn't have a lot of ability maybe to look more carefully at some of the loopholes that it's caused. And I wanted to go over one of the loopholes, and the purpose of the language we're going to amend into the bill is to close that loophole. The enforcement data shows there's an ongoing open-ended loophole in the original law. It was never my intention, and it wasn't part of the discussion. One provision of Assembly Bill 1681, the original bill, allowed companies that signed the original amended consent judgment to be subject to the amended consent judgment's enforcement terms only. They were not subject to statutory enforcement. About 110 companies signed the original amended consent judgment, and we were very excited about that. This same provision allowed companies that later agreed to settlements with identical or nearly identical terms as the original amended consent judgment to also bypass permanently statutory enforcement. As I remember, the intent of that provision was to provide an incentive to get some large national retailers who had not settled, I think it was Walmart, but I'm not sure, to agree to the terms, and they subsequently did. What we didn't do and should have done back then, that there was no sunset date on the provision. It provided and continues to provide a way for companies to add on to this agreement to bypass statutory enforcement. Today, approximately 210 companies, and these are companies under Prop 65 who are subjected to this, have to have 10 or more people, are subjected to the enforcement under the amended consent judgment. DTSC and Center of Environmental Health perform regular inspections if they see lead standards in jewelry above the level. It's sent to labs to confirm that or not. If they find a violation, the case is sent to the Attorney General's office, and then the Attorney General issues what's called a NOV, a notice of violation. In the past several years, there have been 96 notices of violation to 45 companies. About 23 of these companies received one notice of violation. 22 companies received 77 of the notice of violations, averaging about 3.5 each. Half the companies received 80 of the violations. 16 additional NOVs have been issued this year. The problem is there's a few companies, or quite a few companies actually, who are repeat offenders. Not once, but twice, sometimes 3 or 4 times. It's been the subject of newspaper articles. I have some. I get called on the radio all the time. Why are we allowing repeat offenders over and over again? No penalties or anything. They can hide behind a shield, which was created in this consent agreement with no statutory enforcement. These repeat violators paid little or no fines, and under the terms of the amended consent judgment, a company that files a no contest plea promises to fix the problem and they won't do it again, and responds within 15 days to a notice of violation, pays no fine ever, and they can there's no limit on how many times they can repeat. So obviously they are not cleaning up their own act, and at the end of the day, they're hurting children. It's also, in additionally being wrong, it's unfair because, as I told you, the only companies that can participate in this settlement under a Prop 65 case have 10 or more employees. So the little guys are subjected to the fines and the statutory authority through DTSC. And the bigger companies have found this wonderful legal loophole. So repeat offenders should not be able to continually violate the law without penalty. Closing this loophole in this law will just simply level the playing field for all California companies who trade in jewelry. It's been 4 years. The repeat offenders are growing, not lessening. We're allowing additional people to hide behind the shield of the consent decree. I ask for your aye vote to change this loophole that was never intended.
Thank you, Senator. Witness in support.
Good afternoon. Betsy Imholtz for Consumers Union, nonprofit publisher of Consumer Reports. We strongly support SB 646, as we understand is proposed to be amended. Numerous studies demonstrate the developmental problems that occur in children, of course, when they're exposed to lead. And the current law sets specific standards for the maximum allowable in jewelry, including that meant exclusively for children. Unfortunately, the loopholes in the law have allowed violators to evade fines. And as the Senator noted, repeat offenders continue to violate these lead standards without penalty of fine, simply by having signed an agreement previously. In fact, 100% of the violators we understand in 2011 so far have been repeat violators. So clearly the current law exempting these signatories of the agreements is not providing adequate incentives to limit the lead hazards in jewelry. So in order to realize the promise of the original legislation and to provide meaningful incentives to get the lead out, we urge your aye vote.
There are witnesses in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Bill Alio, Environmental Working Group in support. If there's any good news about lead, it's easy to test for. Anyone can do it, so it's easy to find these people. So let's close the loophole and strengthen our law. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses for identification purposes? In support?
Chair, members, Rachel O'Brien on behalf of the local environmental health administrators in support.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrew Roth on behalf of the Sierra Club California. We also support.
Thank you.
Jenna Price on behalf of the Planning and Conservation League in support.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Bowden on behalf of Clean Water Action in support.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Any tweeners? Seeing none. Will of the committee or questions from the committee?
I would move the bill.
Senator Hancock moves the bill. Senator Pavley, would you like to close?
I'd be glad to close. If there are no technical questions, I do have some members of the staff at DTSC if there was a technical question. If they're not, I respectfully ask for your aye vote. I think it's important to clean up this unattended loophole and protect children.
Thank you. Secretary, please open the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended to Judiciary Committee. Simitian. Strickland. Strickland, aye. Blakesley. Blakesley, aye. Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Kehoe. Lowenthal. Pavley.
Aye.
Pavley, aye. That's 4 ayes.
That bill has 4 aye votes, will remain on call. Secretary, can we go back and lift the calls? I know we did the consent calendar. Next is file item 1, SB 237 by Wolk.
Did I vote on the consent calendar?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure because I have to.
Yeah, no, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think it was 7-0.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So file item number 1, SB 237 by Wolk. Secretary, please open the roll.
Senators Blakesley.
Oh, can you announce the vice chairs about this one's?
And the chairs.
Announce what their vote was. On this one, we had Simitian, aye. Strickland, no. Blakesley? Blakesley, no. Hancock, aye. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. That's 5 ayes, 2 noes.
The bill's out, 5-2. File item 2 by Cannella got pulled to the next committee. File item 3, SB 456 by Huff. I believe both the chair and vice chair are voting aye on this one.
Correct.
Secretary, please open the roll.
Senators Blakesley? Blakesley, aye. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Kehoe? That's 6 ayes.
That bill has 6 ayes. We'll close. All right.
That bill has 6 votes, which is sufficient, but we're going to place the bill back on call so that absent members may add on if they wish. Next item. Item 4. This is the Corbett bill. Current vote is?
Current vote is Strickland, no. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal, aye.
So 1 and 2. Measure needs 4 votes. Please call the absent members. And again, members, this is with a commitment from the author both to work with committee staff and understanding that the committee retains jurisdiction. Call the absent members.
Senator Simitian?
Aye.
Simitian, aye. Blakesley? Blakesley, no. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. That's 5 ayes, 2 noes.
5-2. That bill is out. Next item, please.
Item 5.
Item 5. And the vote on this one is?
We have Strickland, no. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal, aye.
Call the absent members.
Senators Simitian?
Aye.
Simitian, aye. Blakesley? Blakesley, no. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. That's 5 ayes, 2 noes.
Vote on that measure is 5-2, and that bill is out.
Item 6.
Item 6, SB 568. Current vote is?
Current vote is Simitian, aye. Strickland, no. Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal, aye. Pavley, aye.
Call the absent members.
Senators Blakesley? Blakesley, no. Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. That's 5 ayes, 2 noes.
That's sufficient, and that bill is out. File item 7 was pulled at the request of the author. That takes us to file item number 8. What is the current vote, please?
Can you give the author's name?
This is the Pavley bill, SB 646.
Current vote is Strickland, aye. Blakesley, aye. Hancock, aye. Pavley, aye.
Call the absent members.
Senator Simitian?
Aye.
Simitian, aye. Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Lowenthal? Lowenthal, aye. That's 7 ayes.
7-0, that bill is out. That brings us to item number 9. That measure was pulled at the request of the author. Items 10 and 11, SB 880 by Corbett and SB 909 by LaMalfa, are both on the consent calendar. We had a 4-0 vote. We have 7-0. Those measures are out. If we could ask the committee secretary to go back to agenda item number 1 and call the absent members, please.
Item 1, Pavley. No, I'm sorry, I have that. We had all of them for item 1.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
The vote on that measure is,
5 ayes, 2 noes.
and that bill is out. Then on SB 241, do I gather that Senator Cannella was not able to return, or did he come back and present? He did not. All right. Then that measure will be put over until our next scheduled hearing. That item is continued. And then that takes us to Senator Huff's bill. Do we have a complete vote on that measure?
I don't have Kehoe.
Ms. Kehoe?
Is that the one that...
Yeah.
On yours?
She did. We have a 6-0 vote on the Huff bill. Shall we leave it at 6-0?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sorry to pull you back. Ayes 6, noes 0 on item number 3. This is SB 456 by Senator Huff. Ayes 6, noes 0. That measure is passed. I believe that completes the business of the committee. Without objection, we are adjourned.